opener. Is everyone a sociopath, or are we all just ignorant? One thing to consider when looking at the world today is why all of the people under people like Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, the Bushes, Obama, Anthony Fauci, and all of the other globalist leaders around the world, why do all of their secretaries, assistants, interns, protégés, employees, beneficiaries, friends, and family, basically anyone around them, why do those people go along with these megalomaniacs' crazy agendas, actions, quirks, and fetishes? Why do they condone or at least ignore these seemingly psychopathic behaviors? Why do so many people go along with the demonic deceptions and deeds of their boss or bosses? Of course, money has to be a primary motivator, and there has to be a certain amount of extortion and fear at play here, but shouldn't those in some way be offset by the harm that coming generations will suffer in the dystopian future being created? Or are the interns, janitors and secretaries that work for sociopaths like Bill Gates themselves sociopaths? Are organizations like the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, and others simply corrupt through and through? Has all of humanity been brainwashed, manipulated, or coerced into doing the bidding of evil people like Bill Gates? It sure feels like those in power and those out of power have bought into the idea of Bill Gates' benevolent plans for planet Earth's future. I mean, really? The guy wants to control our environment by blocking out the sun. Don't believe me? Check the link below. People like Bill seem to want to control our food supply. Don't believe me? Check the link below. People like Bill want to control our health, or at least profit from it. Don't believe me? Come on, say it with me. Check the link below. And for those out there who admire Bill's ambition, consider this. Perhaps Bill will be benevolent. Maybe he will be kind once he controls our food, medicine, and environment, which historically he hasn't. Even if Bill were somehow to behave in a different manner than he has exhibited when he gained control over certain aspects of people's survival, would his kids be as kind and compassionate? Would his grandkids share the resources they've inherited and control in a manner that allows most people to not only survive, but thrive? I don't know about you, but to be honest, I don't want to find out. To allow someone like Bill Gates to have sway over millions of people's lives is bad enough, but to then allow the spoiled offspring of someone like Bill Gates to inherit such power sounds even worse. I know I've been harping on this point for quite a while, but I don't think this threat could be emphasized enough. And this threat ties into the cover-ups we see more often these days. As the author Chris Osman says, there is a reason why there are more and more conspiracies and fewer conspiracy theories. In other words, as more conspiracies are declassified and exposed as true, those accused of wearing tin-foil hats are vindicated. When the fact that the incident that sparked America's longest-lasting war before 9/11, the Vietnam War, when the incident that supposedly started that war is revealed to have never happened, it says something about the integrity of those who led the United States into such a devastating conflict. Just think about the consequences of such actions. Just consider the death toll of the Vietnamese people at the hands of American forces, which were sent into battle based on a known lie. The same can be said and verified about so many other wars and conflicts undertaken by American leadership. H.W. Bush led America into the first Iraq War based on the lie about babies being taken from incubators and thrown on the floor to die. His son G.W. Bush lied about weapons of mass destruction to get America into the Second War with Iraq. This list goes on and on as the truth eventually comes out about American interference across the globe. And the worst part about it is that too many Americans ignore the facts as they come out. Too many Americans vote Democrat or Republican as if things get better, depending on such votes. As America's wars continue under Democratic and Republican leadership, Americans blindly vote for the next Democrat or Republican candidate. Talk about doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I'm waiting for the truth about 9/11 to be declassified on the FBI's website, revealing that those attacks were an inside job. The sad truth is that it's not even that crazy to suggest that something like this may happen. When an audit of the Pentagon's budget has failed every year it has occurred, and to the tune of trillions of dollars, how could 9/11 being an inside job sound that crazy? Just think about it. Jeffrey Epstein got away with his immoral and illegal activities for years. He served time for his immoral and illegal activities. And even though he got to go to work while he served that time, he still got convicted and incarcerated and then committed similar, if not the same types of crimes again once released. And even Bill Gates, a billionaire who could probably have paid every private investigator on the planet to vet Epstein, could have avoided contact with Epstein. And Epstein, who was either a billionaire himself or had access to billions of dollars with the power of attorney he had over Lex Wexner's fortune, had to have employed a bunch of people who had to ignore all of the fishy things Jeffrey was doing. And while it's obvious that not all of his employees would have known about Epstein's deranged behavior, enough of them would have been in a position to provide evidence to the authorities. And today, there are all of those employed by Bill Gates, Donald Trump, and all of the other rich and famous people who hung out with Epstein. How many years would they have had to see underage girls get abused before they dropped a dime? Called the authorities. It would seem to me that there are only a few reasons why a person wouldn't blow the whistle on Jeffrey. Threats, money, being a psychopath themselves. While none of us will ever fully understand how and why Jeffrey Epstein got away with, and actually continues to get away with his crimes, because he was never tried for his latest actions, I do think we all have front row seats to something that could explain it. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs is providing insight into why those crimes were ignored for so long. Just look at all of the instances of immunity the prosecution has had to provide to get witnesses against Diddy. While the final truth has yet to be revealed, all of these instances of immunity mean that Diddy was surrounded by a lot of people who either feared repercussions of speaking out, or they simply didn't care about the things Diddy did to his alleged victims, or they participated in the same or similar devious acts. I think by the process of elimination, we can eliminate their indifference, because I don't think you need immunity when you simply witness a crime in most states. Those immunities provided by the prosecution do, however, infer guilt. The women requiring immunity from prosecution are just as guilty as the men requiring immunity for their testimonies. And if all of the witnesses for the prosecution are lying about what Diddy did, then there is another cover-up at play here, which requires a bunch of people to agree to lie about Diddy. I'm not implying whether I believe Diddy is guilty or not, or whether those testifying against him are lying or telling the truth. I'm pointing out that no matter what the truth is, there are a bunch of people who kept Diddy's secrets for decades, or are keeping secrets now to convict Diddy. So whether it's war or money, sexual depravity or immoral and unjustifiable control, there does seem to be a way to cover up really big conspiracies. And covering up a conspiracy seems less necessary as time goes by, because the masses seem content to ignore them as they come out anyway. In America, as in countries around the globe, citizens complain about immigration while ignoring the root cause or causes. In America, so many complain about all of the immigrants coming up through Mexico, while ignoring the part that the United States played in what motivated those immigrants to leave their homeland. Just read the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins to get a sense of how America ruined countries in Central, South America and elsewhere that left the people of those nations no alternative but to abandon their birthplace, to make a perilous journey to a country where they are either exploited for their labor or hated for their labor. And, of course, there will be those Americans who, if they read this post, will say things like, "If America is so bad, why don't you leave it and go live in some country you think is better?" To which I would reply, that argument doesn't hold as much weight as it once did. America is not the country it was decades ago, and it is becoming less so every day. Far too many Americans are becoming homeless and entering into endless debt cycles from which there is no exit for anyone but the wealthiest. To believe America will continue to be viewed as the best country on planet Earth. As two-income households find it more difficult to pay for necessities and tens of thousands of veterans find themselves homeless, even the literal defense of America is becoming more questionable by the day. When the Houthis can convince America to agree to a ceasefire, the United States does not exude strength. So, when someone questions America's standing in the world, a more prudent approach might be to consider how the nation can regain the status it's losing and has lost. To think that the United States can be considered the best while it consistently lets its own people down is to be blinded by the propaganda that weak leadership spews. Maybe we, the people, should demand our government use eminent domain to wrest the resources that are being made ever more scarce due to the hoarding of the rich. There are plenty of blogs, news and websites reporting and complaining about our leaders and their failures. How many, however, are offering or even pointing to any solutions? The book, Solutions. Enough Complaining. Let's Fix America by Chris Osman does, and it can be found on Amazon or at www.mikesonsentertainment.com. To find out other ways you're being screwed by your current leaders, check out the posts on this blog daily. Learn about the biggest and worst issues that America and its people face today. You can also check into this blog daily to hear about those issues that America and its people will face in the near and distant future. If, however, you would like to discover possible solutions to either mitigate the worst impacts of these issues or solutions to avoid them altogether, keep listening. The problems we face are not as complicated as so many leaders and news reports claim. They are man-made and are only claimed as complicated so those who are responsible can maintain control. For example, there is a persistent argument that moving government is like turning a cruise ship around. It is supposedly a long process that can only be achieved incrementally. While this may be true for laws and policies that benefit the majority of Americans, it does not seem to be so for that smallest of American minorities. When one examines the policies and laws that benefit that minority known as the elite or the rich, the speed at which those laws are passed is exponentially faster. While most of us sit on the deck chairs waiting for the Titanic to avoid the myriad of icebergs of which we seem to continually run afoul, the elite ride comfortably in speedboats. If, according to the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, why do the rich live quite different lives than the rest of us? Where is our speedboat? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provides solutions, offered up from himself and others, to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyze, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions, Enough Complaining, Let's Fix America offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. There's a reason why there are fewer and fewer conspiracy theories and more conspiracies. Click the link below and get your copy of Solutions today.